We're proud of our military and the men and women who serve in it, but we're going for diplomacy and partnership first, and force is a last resort, not the other way around. So, I think you ought to be for her because she's the person who can most quickly restore our standing. A Canadian firm recently did a poll in Canada and every European country, and it was an interesting poll. It put all the Republicans and all the Democrats in a common list. Just ask all these people, who are you for president? Who do you want to be the next American president? In every country, without exception, if you take out the undecided, she had an absolute majority of the vote against all the Republicans and all the Democrats. Why? Well, she went to 83 countries when I was president. She's traveled the world since then. These people know her, they like her, they respect her. That's no disrespect to the other candidates. Nearly any of them, including a lot of the Republicans, will leave us in better shape than we are now. But the point is, America's not going to get a honeymoon here. We don't have a large margin of error. We need to get the show on the road, get up and going, send the right message out. She would be the best to do that. The second thing we have to do to reinforce that is figure out a way to quickly terminate our military involvement in Iraq without making it worse. For example, some people have criticized her for saying it might be necessary to leave a small group of forces up where the Kurds are, where there's no violence, or get along with each other, everybody's living fine. But there's a lot of tension with the Turks. We've been reading all about that. Now here's why you should care about it. They're both our allies. And Turkey is the only moderate Muslim country with a serious military that has good relations with both Israel and Iran. If we have a chance to avoid a terrible consequence of it, it rests in part with our being able to get the Turks to exercise their influence with both countries in the region to give us a peaceful outcome. She gets that. We also are going to have to rebuild the American military, which has been very strong. You know that. We've had a lot of people. We lost somebody in this community in the last month. But let me tell you something you might not know. If we had an emergency tomorrow somewhere else in the world, and 100% of we all send the Marines, we couldn't, because we don't have any Marines to send in. The Army and the Marine Corps, all of our ground forces there in Iraq or Afghanistan or somewhere else are required to be are on rotation. So is the National Guard, so are the reserves. A lot of people in this state have been called up twice for reserve and guard duty. Now, about 8 months ago, the Pentagon started training naval personnel and Navy reservists in Army infantry tactics. Really nobody in America knows this. And when they did it, I actually thought, well, this is a good idea because we have no reserve force. And I remember a young naval officer in San Francisco came up to me and said, well, we're doing target practice now. They call us the Army. The young man that Hillary and I talked into taking early retirement from the Navy and going into the Navy Reserve to help us run our home in New York, because we're gone all the time, was a cook in the White House mess. 8 months ago, his reserve duty became target practice. This summer at summer camp, this Navy cook was one of 2 12-person groups brought from the woods in Virginia, where they engaged in 2 weeks of Special Forces combat against each other. And a week ago, he got off the plane correct, deployed with the Army. Now, I'm proud of him. He's a friend, man. He can be fun. That's not the point. The point is, we are now using the reserve. And many of these deployments are longer than our soldiers endured in World War II. You need somebody who gets this. The military is a precious resource. It makes our diplomacy possible. If you got a president with a serious commitment to force as a last resort, not a first option. The second reason I'll be for. She's on the Armed Services Committee, the only candidate that served. And back when the Republicans were in the majority, the Pentagon organized a small commission to plan for the modernized military of the 21st century. With the Republican majority, she was the only senator that asked to say it. And believe me, a lot of our military commanders agree with most of us that this Iraq venture was important. But they know it's going to be a hard slog to reconstitute the military, which is a precious resource for this country. You need to have somebody that gets that and that immediately can start from day one based on contacts, trust, and respect. Third reason you want to be for it is she's got a great economic plan to create new jobs by making a serious commitment to clean, efficient energy future. She gave 2 speeches in Iowa. One focused on biofuels, which is obviously central to Iowa, but the other focused on the things that we can do that will reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and spark what I believe will be the biggest economic mobilization this country's had since World War II. If we make a serious commitment to a clean, efficient energy future, we will create more jobs in the next 8 years than were created when I was president. More by a good long stretch, if we do it right. I'll give you an example you can do in any town in Iowa, just as well as you can do in New York City. We're about twice as efficient as we were when we had the first oil price spike in 1973. But we're less than half as efficient as we could be. And getting there involves jobs that can't be outsourced. Next time you drive through any community in Iowa, it's got any kind of old buildings, look at how many of them have a flat roof. Almost all of them are sealed in the roof by some substance that has tar in it. On a day when it's 80 degrees outside and the sun's shining, after 3 hours or so, that roof will be 150 degrees to the touch. That runs the air conditioning buildup, emits greenhouse gases, and costs the people paying power a lot. If you bring that roof, if you just seal it off, put down some sod and whatever vegetation the roof will hold, you cut the temperature down to 75 or 80 degrees. It has a drastic impact on the power. It's like giving a tax cut to everybody that has one of these buildings, whether they're an apartment or a business or whatever. You cut greenhouse gases. You give the power company free electricity. That is, they can grow the economy without adding to the environmental problem. And these jobs cannot be outsourced to India. This is not a call center. Somebody's got to be standing on the roof. Now, there are millions and millions and millions of jobs that can be created in America doing these kind of things, and they can all be financed through savings. That's what I'm doing now. All around the world, I'm organizing things like this so we can create these jobs. Hillary's whole climate change plan is premised on the notion, number one, that we've got to get the American economy going again, and number two, nobody will follow us. The Chinese and the Indians certainly won't unless they can have their own homegrown jobs. Not getting outsourced jobs from America, not promoting unfair trade practices, growing their own economies in a way that would be good for them and good for us. This is a big need. You don't have to take my word for this. We actually got some evidence. You know that in our economic recovery, basically the top 1% got the lion's share of the benefits. And almost 100% of the benefits have gone to the top 10%. Okay? Look at Denmark. They got an economy kind of like ours, their unemployment rate's about what ours is. Unlike America, their wages are rising and inequality is going down. You know why? They grew their economy by 50% without using one more watt of electricity. Zero, nothing. 50% growth with no more energy use. Meanwhile, they started producing 25% of electricity from wind, which means they lowered their greenhouse gas emissions. That's why they have more jobs and less inequality. Look at the United Kingdom, Great Britain. They've got the European economy most like ours. Unemployment rate's the same, but unlike us, the wages are rising, no increase in inequality. Why? Because when we walked away from that Kyoto climate change treaty that I supported and that we supported, and we were told to bankrupt the economy, we really said, we like it, but it's a little weak.